Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the All in Football podcast. It is episode 67, and I am your host, the self-proclaimed FPL guru, Alex Rex. Joining me today, my usual suspects of Barry Stokes and Scott Williams to discuss all things football from the 2022-2023 season. So this week we'll talk about, unfortunately, Man City winning the treble, and what all the clubs seem to need transfer-wise moving forward. Scott will have a little lower league roundup for us, just like the old days. We'll talk about the rest of the league, managerial merry-go-round of the season, relegation. We'll have a little debate on team of the season, and we might even do a few awards, which we'll come to from Baz at the very end. So, boys, Scott, how are you doing?
Hot.
Baz, have you come down from Cloud9 yet?
Yeah, just come down. I'm repping light blue today for City. So thought I'll put that in there for you as well, Alex.
Yeah, well, to start off by talking to us about Manchester City's incredible achievement. Only the second team in English football history to do the treble. I think only the 10th team to do the treble, European treble overall anyway as well. Sum up the achievement, Baz, and let's get talking about it, shall we?
Well, it's especially the circumstances of the Premier League. Everyone was thinking Arsenal was going to win it, and obviously they just came like a juggernaut, just literally just win. Arsenal faltered, so that in itself is a big achievement to just win a Premier League, but also to win the FA Cup and the Champions League. I'd say it's probably better than Man U's.
Well, we'll have that debate right now. I know we're going to do a team, you absolute wind-up merchant. But I do think as well, when you look at Man City's numbers, they went on that run for 14 games in the Prem where they won 13 and drew 1 before, obviously, the last 2 games of the season where the title was already wrapped up. And was actually wrapped up with 3 games to go for them, wasn't it, crazily enough? So ignoring the Brighton draw and the Brentford loss, but when they really needed it, they did turn it on. It's like they started playing. Looked nervy in the Champions League final, didn't they? Even though it felt like they were very, very assured in the FA Cup final. Scotty, City, what do you make of it?
Yes, not a bad achievement, is it? Yeah, I mean, yeah, they did look really nervy. I mean, if you'd say to them, you were only going to win 1 trophy this year, I think genuinely a lot of City fans would have said the Champions League because they get all the stick for it for not winning it, and the players are going to feel that on the pitch as well. They're playing against an Inter Milan team which really didn't probably suit their style of play. Would have probably preferred to play against a more of attacking lineup. So they have to be patient, which they do better than any team in the world. They're the best at breaking teams down. They're so patient. But yeah, it was a crap game. I thought it was a very boring Champions League final. I was happy. I was a bit drunk when I was watching it. So yeah, but yeah, not as good as Man United's for me.
Well, we'll do the team by team thing in a minute because it seems to be the debate everyone wants, and I hate those comparisons. I think they're so pointless. But that's what we're all going to do because I think at the end of the day is what everyone likes to talk about this very moment in time. I was the Champions League final. I mean, I was at a wedding anyway, so I didn't really see much of it. But I did see Lukaku decide to not score at the end, which was absolutely balmy. I mean, I'd score that header. It's a miss, not a save. It's horrendous from him. How he's still a striker, I don't know at this very moment in time. It's crazy. But
goalkeeper, isn't he?
Yeah, he seems
Save that DeMarco header.
Yeah, he saved the DeMarco header, didn't he? So he got away there. He had a nightmare when he came. I was surprised he didn't start at first. I thought apparently him and Martinez have had this big partnership and whatever else. But yeah, I think as a Man United fan, I'm frightened a little bit now because them getting over the line in that first Champions League final was a big deal. Like, because it was such a big deal. So they were so nervy. They were making bad pass backs. They were losing the ball in silly areas. They should have conceded goals. They'll now be in the Champions League like they were in the FA Cup final, which was ridiculously assured, confident, like they were at the end of the Premier League season. You could see them going on and doing more. What do they need? What are City going to do in the transfer window? Because, have they got the complete team? Are we looking at because sorry, go on, Scott.
I was going to say, I think you need to look at who they may lose. So if they lose Gundogan, they need to replace Gundogan for me. You can't go if their aim next season is to win all 4. They don't want to match Man United. They either want to get more trebles than Man United or do what no English team's ever done and win all 4. So they'd need that strength and depth. Pep is the best manager in the world at rotating and keeping his players happy, it seems. So whoever they lose, they always seem to replace. You look at, the lose Zinchenko, Jesus, they replace them. They lose Sarnes in the past, they replace them. So they can lose big players like Gundogan, maybe your Bernardo Silvas. They just nailed the recruitment more often than not. There's a few duds in there, but I don't think there's been many duds in the Pep era. All early days when you brought Claudio Bravo in, didn't work out, that kind of thing. But they seem to get it right and they seem to nail it every time. So I don't think it's not like last season when they were like, well, they're going to bring a striker in to replace Aguero or whatever. I think they just need a bit of backup there for anyone that goes. And yeah, that's it for me.
Baz, your thoughts?
I think they'll sign Kimmich.
What, to replace Gundogan?
It can also play fullbacks. It can play fullbacks as well, can't it? So it's perfect, really. I think
he's played with Pep before, and so he knows the systems and whatever he does, doesn't he?
So I think Kimmich will be on his way. I know he's rumoured and linked, so but I think he'll be ideal. I think he's the main target. If I was Pep, I'd be signing him.
You need someone if Cancelo's going as well. If that's going to go, you need someone versatile. So I think Kimmich would be ideal. Yeah.
So impressive what's happened with City, though. Taking my Man United hat off, the way that they've turned it on the second half of the season, the fact that Haaland got 52 goals in 53 games, crazy. He's done unbelievable. But in the FA Cup final, Gundogan steps up and gets 2. In the Champions League final, Rodri steps up and gets the goal. It's the whole team does contribute, and they have goals everywhere. The way they sustain attacks, that Rodri finish is them sustaining an attack by ringing the box and just doing some brilliant tactical work. And John Stones just taking up that role and coming from right back and then moving into midfield. And a few years ago, he wasn't even in the England squad, was he? He's come back now, and that tactical switch in the way he's played that role. Diaz coming back. They just it's so impressive from Pep and so impressive from that team. It's frightening for anybody next season to come against them. The way they destroyed Madrid in the semi-final, wow. That semi-final second leg performance was one of the best performances I think I've ever watched.
But it's like you say, it's all Pep, him and his coaching staff.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he needs a year off every now and again. Because you've never seen a manager with that much intensity. The way he develops players, yes, you see it every year. The player does all right in the first year, but it takes him a year to get to know Pep. You've seen Jack Grealish. Numbers aren't brilliant this year, but he's one of his trusted lieutenants this year. He's always counting on him. The fact that he's fought to put, like say, John Stones in that new role, moving people about. Getting rid of Cancelo, who was in everyone's fantasy team for a year, and bringing in different players and that, and just doing that. It's a lot of people say, "Oh, he's had a billion to spend." Anyone could do it. They really couldn't. He still need a special manager to bring all those players together.
And plus, he keeps changing tactics as well. Inverted wing backs. Who would have thought of that ages ago? When Gary Neville was playing, it was an out-and-out fullback, no nonsense. And now you've got wing-backs that are actually wingers. And the natural formation of Pep's teams is usually like a 2-3-5. So the transition is just crazy how he does it as well on that front.
Let's do United versus City then. So let's do the team run through, and I want you to give me your opinion on which player that you would have. So we'll start with Scott every time, and then we'll go to Baz straight after. So Schmeichel or Ederson?
Schmeichel. For me, it's Schmeichel just because, I'll be honest, that 99 season I know so well because I used to be a Man United follower growing up and I used to have the tape. the Man United treble winning season, and I watched it so many times. It's still in my parents' loft somewhere. And the amount of clutch saves he did that season and throughout his career, and let's not say that wasn't an era of playing out from the back. Edison's better than that, but you never saw him. Schmeichel was there to make saves, but also what makes Schmeichel number one for me was his command of that whole back that back four and that back five. He was vocal, and the defenders were scared to make a mistake. And to have that sit behind Roy Keane, I think they were just leaders down the whole spine in that team. So that's why it's Schmeichel. Why is it Edison then, Baz?
No, I actually agree with you for once. I'd have gone for Schmeichel as well.
Yeah, it's also the penalty save in the semi-final, the Bergkamp. It's just, Schmeichel for me all day long, personally.
Some big saves in the Champions League final from Yanker as well.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. I think because Man United just weren't as dominant as City are. Like it's just it's totally different, which is why these comparisons are so annoying. Right, we'll rapid fire through the defense. Neville versus Walker.
Walker.
Baz?
Walker.
Neville. Left back, Irwin versus Akanji.
Dennis Irwin. So underrated.
Akanji.
Yeah, Irwin all day long. One of the most underrated players.
He was a penalty taker as well, don't forget. He never missed a pen.
Yeah, class. Right footed left back. Ronnie Johnson versus John Stones.
I would go for John Stones actually in that one.
Baz?
Stonesy.
Stones, definitely Stones this season, has to be. This one is really tough. Like, really tough. Yap Stam versus Ruben Diaz.
Yap Stam. That 99 season, he was fantastic. And there was a moment in the Champions League final where he cleared one off the line with a header. And I'll never forget that. Not Champions League final, Champions League quarters or semis.
It was
Juve in the quarters.
No, Juve was semi. Juve in the semi.
Inter someone in the quarters, someone like
that.
Yeah. Maybe Barcelona was it? Anyway, but he made a massive header and he was an absolute beast in that. But he was the best centre back in the world at that period in time, I think.
Baz?
Stam. I think the centre forwards he played against were out and out centre forwards, like a Haaland type of player. Whereas now, the most dangerous players on the football pitch are inverted wingers. So the fullbacks have got a lot of hard work. So Diaz looks good because he's a luxury. He drops down and gets the ball, but he also can rough it up. But for me, Yab Stam.
It's just Stam again for me. Diaz, the way he's changed this season and solidified City and how good he's been, it's just Stam. But I thought that was really close. I thought for me. Another close one: Keane versus Rodri.
Roy Keane for me. That leadership quality from Keane dragged him over the line, and that semi-final performance in the Champions League when he scores the goal and he knows he's missing the final and he just carries that team through. I thought that was such an inspiration.
I'll never forget that header. I'll never forget that header. Never. Yeah. Unbelievable moment. Baz?
Rodri.
Why?
I just think how he makes it tick. He just keeps it ticking over. Yeah, you got Roy Keane, who's a hatchet man, but he can play a bit. But Rodri is a box-to-box, a holding midfielder. He's a complete midfielder for me. And obviously scoring the winner in the Champions League as well. Quite a lot of players would thrash that. He's just literally just caressed it, passed it into the back of net with some power as well. So yeah, for Rodri for me.
Especially after getting dropped for the last Champions League final. Like that was, I think Fernandinho might have still been at the club then, and neither of them got picked, did they, for that final? Gundogan got started. I mean, it's Roy Keane for me, but again, incredibly close, which is why I hate these comparisons again. Scholes versus Gundog.
Scholes.
Baz?
He scored the other night in Soccer Aid. Scholes for me.
Scholes again, all day. One of the best players Premier League is. Rasheen. Giggsy versus Grealish.
Right, we're taking off our just football, right?
Football, just football. We're not thinking about
Ryan Gigg. Ryan Gigg was phenomenal for over a long period of time, especially that era. He was fantastic. Giggsy.
Baz?
I've got to back a Welshman, and Giggsy.
It's Giggs all day for me. Football. Yeah, football. One of the best footballers the Premier League has ever seen, and we're all talking about football. Beckham and David Silva, which is one that's
Bruno.
been thrown.
Bernardo.
Which is
David Silva.
Bernardo Silva. What? Do you know what? David as
Rolling-
well. That's still really
Rolling
tough.
back the years.
That's really tough. Yeah, Beckham versus Bernardo Silva. Totally different players, like.
Beckham is just the amount of crosses he whipped into Dwight York and Andy Cole in that year, and Sheringham, Solskjaer, and there's big free kicks and big moments. Beckham for me.
Totally different players technically, but I'd agree with Scott. I think Beckham takes a shot on that one.
Yeah, it's an impossible comparison, that, isn't it? So, but Beckham, yeah. Talk about impossible comparisons. So we've put Dwight, because they play different formations here. So it's York and KDB, and then we've done Cole and Haaland. So it's just you're very similar in terms of the fact that neither of them, like Andy Cole and Dwight York, didn't score any of our goals in the FA Cup final and the Champions League final. It was Sheringham and Scholes in the FA Cup final, and then Sheringham and Solskjaer in the Champions League final. Like, these are the two strikers that scored like 40 odd goals in that season, didn't get any in the two biggest games. What is there?
I would say I would go for KDB if. So I'm going to skip ahead as well. I'd go for KDB if Haaland was also playing and vice versa.
Yeah.
But if one of them wasn't playing, I'd have to go because that was an unbelievable partnership, Dwight York and Andy Cole, on and off the field. Like, they were like best mates, and you could just see it on the pitch. And they were such a big reason why Man United won the treble that year.
Talk about being dull. I'm going to completely agree with you, Scott, on that point precisely, because the two of them played together, KDB and Haaland, obviously, and then York and Cole. But yeah, I think I probably just, it's the way it would be. Baz?
Exactly the same. The partnership of the two.
it is though. That's why these comparisons are awful. Like, you can't
KDB
do it.
or Haaland. It's just it is.
Yeah.
They're both good partnerships, aren't they? So.
And Scott thinks Man United's treble was better. You think City's was better. I think United's was better. So the All in Football podcast. So no, it's incredibly close. You can't do the comparisons. Both amazing achievements. Let's move on to transfers and what people need. And we've talked about Man City already. So let's make our way down the table a little bit. And let's talk about some of the transfers that have already happened this season so far, and other ones that are rumoured to have happened. So let's start with Liverpool. So Alexis McAllister's come in. James Milner's left and gone to Brighton. Firmino's obviously left as well, as he's gone. Bellingham's gone to Madrid. They can't afford Mbappe. What's the crack with Liverpool? What do they need to do to break back into that top four? Who do they need to sign? Barry.
Well, they're linked with quite a young midfielders, aren't they? Coney and Thuram. And I think they fully need someone like that, a box-to-box midfielder, because that's what they were missing, a lot of energy in that midfield. And Henderson's obviously still got kind of the legs, but not as good as he used to be. So yeah, I think obviously with McAllister's a great signing for him, especially an absolute steal as well. But yeah, definitely probably two centre midfielders, I think, if I have to say, because I think you can't rely on Elliott, even though he has done well, even though Cully doesn't rate him, but I still think he's a good player. But yeah, I think they need two centre midfielders. Forwards, define. Defensively, maybe a centre-back, but obviously it all depends on funds, really, I suppose.
Do you think they don't need anyone else across the front three?
No.
Jota, Salah, Diaz, and Nunes, and Gakpo.
Gakpo.
That's it. Scott, anything else to push on Liverpool?
Not really. I'm surprised they've distanced themselves from JWP today. James Ward-Prowse. I thought that way would sort of, I think, gelling really well in that midfield. They'll get him pretty cheap. I feel like he could play for like a Liverpool, especially when they rotate that midfield quite often anyway. But yeah, I've got to agree with Baz there. Two midfield signings. Someone like a Thuram.
Yeah,
he's been doing fantastic in France at the minute. Like, someone like that would be amazing. But I think Alex McAllister is good. I think they've got him quite cheap, aren't they? 35 million.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. You look at what Chelsea played for Enzo Fernandez from, yeah.
The same team, same Argentinian team, all the World Cup. It's great. It's great value. I don't know how Liverpool do it, to be honest. That's so cheap, really. I thought it was going to be more money than that. Yeah, totally agree. I think James Ward-Prowse would be a good fit. I don't think someone like Maddison will work in the system. So it's just, the way it works moving forward. Brighton have signed João Pedro, and Milner as well today to try and replace a few players that are inevitably going to leave. What do you think about the Caicedo rumours? He's linked with a lot of clubs. Do you think Brighton will sell him as well as McAllister in the same window?
I won't be surprised. They've showed it for the last few years now that they can replace players. I think the only worry would be two players, like you say, from the same position. Is that going to be too much? But they've already said they're not going to stop the best players leaving, aren't they? But I think the fact that we're in Europa League, if they do lose them, they should be able to attract more, a wider net of people as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go.
And plus the recruitment side in Brighton have been phenomenal. Like all these young players that are coming in, like obviously Ferguson was in the youth team anyway in CCL and Bonionte or whatever you pronounce his name. They've been unheard people. Bring them in and they've been class. So I'm pretty confident even if they get Caicedo, like they hold the guns as well to get a good value. But obviously Arsenal didn't want to obviously match the bid in January. So I think that obviously it will go. Obviously, he's linked with Bayern Munich and a few other clubs as well. So yeah, you can't tie away from a player that wants to play in the Champions League. So yeah, I think he's going, and I don't know who they'll get because they'll probably get like an unheard of Peruvian or something like that. So
we've got to talk about the players that. There's such a merry-go-round potentially happening with Mbappe's, with Kane's, Mounts, all this sort of what's going on. What's your reading of the situation, Scott? We'll start from the Harry Kane perspective. What's your reading of the situation? Benzema moving on to Saudi, etc. Is Madrid in the stars? Is that Mbappe? Over to you.
Yeah, I think in relation to that, Mbappe would like to go to Madrid and Madrid would like Mbappe. That would be the ideal situation for them. But you've got to think of your Paris Saint-Germain. Messi's now gone to Inter Miami. Neymar's hated by the fans.
Hated.
So it's like you need to sell shirts, you need to sell tickets. Mbappe's your main boy. They're going to do everything they can to keep hold of him. They obviously signed a new contract not long ago, mega money, but Mbappe to Real Madrid, I think that'll be their first choice. I can see though that getting paid and then just throwing 100 million for Harry Kane. I can see. I feel like if Harry Kane was miles away from the Premier League all-time record, there would be no hesitation of him wanting to go because I feel like he wouldn't ideally want to play for a big rival of Spurs because he does love the club. But I feel like he'll have the back of his mind that he would love to get that Alan Shearer record. But I can see him going to Real Madrid. Absolutely. I mean, they need a number 9, and he fits the bill perfectly.
It feels like if they don't get Mbappe, then they'd go for Kane. It feels like Kane either moves abroad this summer or stays in England next summer with a free transfer, doesn't it? Like instead, obviously stays at Spurs this summer. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Kane didn't move anywhere and his contract ended and then he went to either Liverpool, Man United or Newcastle. Because he's not going to go. He's never going to Arsenal. He wouldn't be seen dead in an Arsenal shirt, would he? And he's never going to go to Chelsea either. City have got Haaland.
Spurs are just going to sit there and pray. They're not going to let him go for cheap, and then they're just going to pray that Pochettino, whatever his name is,
Postecoglou,
is a miracle worker, and they have an unbelievable. They win the FA Cup, they get top 4, and they convince Kane to sign a new contract.
Yeah. That's what they'll want to do. 100%.
Yeah.
They won't want to sell him. So, Baz, what's your take on the merry-go-round, and then come back to the Mason Mount stuff and chat away.
I think I agree with Scott with Mbappe probably will go to Madrid, and I think PSG will probably pick up Kane. I'll just put it as simple as that.
Do you think he'll go to PSG?
I agree with Scott that he's tempted by that, but obviously PSG could potentially win. You'll win some trophies if he wants something like that on the CV. Is he going to get something at Spurs to win something? No. Is he going to get it with England? No. So yeah, go to PSG.
Yeah. No,
I don't think he would go to PSG. I think he sees it too much of a farmers' league.
Yeah,
He's been playing with farmers anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
but not in the league.
Poor Son. But no, well, they did only win the league by 1 point, didn't they, PSG? But I suppose you get Bayern Munich, and they only won the league on the last day of the season because Dortmund drew and they
Yeah,
won.
but
So
compare Borussia Dortmund to Lons.
yeah, it's a very fair point. What do you make of the Mason Mount stuff?
He's been shocking this season, to be fair, but so has Chelsea. So it's not. It's one of them where Chelsea probably need to cash in on him because he's going to go for free because he doesn't want to sign. So yeah, I don't really know because he's been not really that good, and Man U signing a player that's probably over the hill and past it. He's obviously not past it, but
over the hill.
you know what I mean. But he's had a shocking season.
24.
He's been injured anyway. It's 80 mils insane.
No, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Paying 80 mil for a person that's had a shocking season, it's like a Chelsea paying 100 and something odd million for an Enzo Fernandez. That's just won a World Cup.
Well, if Mason Mount was called Mason Moutinho, it'd be about 25 million. The English tax is frightening. And I don't. Man United really need to get away from just spending too much on too many players. And
that's probably why Liverpool's priced out of JWP because he's 53 million. They're saying.
Frightening.
So it's never 50. Is he 53? Is that what they're quoting?
I think that's what they're quoting. Yeah.
Oh, it feels sick. No way he's worth that price.
How can they quote that?
I don't know. It's bonkers. Whereas like Madrid can pick up Bellingham for 80 something million because
he's an unbelievable bargain. That, by the way.
I mean, I know the extras go up to about 150, 120. I think the extras take
add-ons, are they?
Yeah, add-ons go up to like 120 or something. But like that, he has to win like the Ballon d'Or, isn't it? But
I think he will.
Yeah, I think he will at all.
No, you never know, do you? But I think Haaland's got a lot up for a few. No, but you never know, do you? Mbappe's of the world, but yeah, it's the transfer market's just insane. There's so much dust to settle yet. There's the Saudi money that's been chucked in now. I mean, that's probably where Lukaku will end up. And it's other players like that, they're getting touted to go there for ridiculous amounts of money. Obviously, Kante is going there for 100 million a year or whatever he's getting paid.
Jordi Alba as well.
Jordi Alba.
Son's been linked.
Son been linked.
I think just every man and his dog's been linked, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the best leagues in the world, isn't it? So
yeah, Ronaldo's there, isn't he? So
the
talking about Farmers League.
I know. The United stuff's interesting because, obviously hope Harry Maguire finds a new club this summer. And then, we're looking at getting rid of a few players as well, additional to that. And we really need a striker. So we'll see what happens in terms of Osimhen and all the links that we always get linked with. And as a Man United fan, you don't believe a damn thing until you've seen them in the shirt, standing there, putting their arm around Eric, really, to be honest. It's just the classic, we're linked with everybody. We're never signing Kane. I don't think the Mount deal will ever go through. So I think we're just looking at other stuff this season. Any other transfers that have caught your eye? Any other rumours that have made you go, ooh?
David Raya, Tottenham, Kepa. Yeah. They're the two people that are linked because Lloris is going. Mm-hmm. So they're the two. I think Tottenham getting a goalkeeper. Is it going to be Raya or is it going to be Kepa? That's the two that I think.
I think Raya would be a quality signing for him.
40 mil?
Yeah, we're with that as well, aren't we? It's yeah. I mean, another interesting Conor Gallagher, I suppose. Seen that as a potential link. If Gallagher's not going to get the minutes, but yeah, it was Raya as well for Lloris going. Madders. I mean, where's Tielemans gone to Villa, didn't he? Tielemans gone to Villa. So Maddison then been the other person who's probably going to end up going. It looks pretty much like Newcastle is where it's going to be.
Tell you what would be a good signing for Tottenham. He does play for Leicester. Barnes. I think Barnes would be good for Tottenham.
Okay. Yeah.
I can see Barnes doing a season in Championship, similar to what Grealish did a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe so. And I know that Brentford have bid for Brennan Johnson today, 30 million quid. They signed Sharda. Seems like a good signing, like 20 mil. He looked quite good at the end of last season. So Brentford trying to replace Tony for the first half of the year looks interesting. Yeah, no. Johnson, you like Johnson, Baz?
Yeah, he apparently handed in a transfer request, apparently.
Oh, did he? Oh, is he actually? Is he trying to push the damn thing through? Is he? Fair enough. Last thing on this, because it's all still up in the air. But what do you make of the Havertz link to Arsenal? Bit tepid, isn't it?
I don't know. He's a similar player to Jesus. So what's the point? I don't get it at all. He might as well go back to Germany. He'll go to Dortmund or something like
That wraps up transfers. Scott, let's go back in time, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about your lower league football roundup. And
lower league football roundup.
Yeah, the lower league football. Are you loading it right now?
Just get my notes up, mate.
Okay, fine. It sounds exciting. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll rock it.
Off he goes.
Cool. So yeah, we'll start with the championship, which Burnley scraped by about 100 points, almost setting a new record. So it will be really interesting to see Burnley next season, because anyone that doesn't watch Championship football remembers Burnley as Burnley. Long ball, totally different now. Play football on the Vincent Company. So that'll be a really interesting one to keep an eye on. And I think one that's gone under the radar a bit is Paul Heckingbottom's job he did at Sheffield United this season. He got him to like his FA Cup semi-final. Yeah, they got beat by City, didn't they? FA Cup semi-final, knocking some big scouts out and getting them to comfortably second in the league as well. So they've bounced back to the Premier League. And then obviously the one we're all looking forward to seeing, Luton Town. What an unbelievable achievement. Playing my boys literally 10 years ago. Now they're playing in the Premier League with a smaller ground than my boys. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one. Then playoffs, Coventry, Sunderland, Middlesbrough as well. They'll be looking at bouncing back. Disappointment seasons for Watford. They're going to West Brom. And this club from Wales, Swansea, finished just 3 points off the playoffs. Baz, quick one. 15 seconds. You're going to get promoted next year?
No.
Perfect.
Russell Martin is going to Southampton manager. We don't know who we're going to get, because obviously we want a certain compensation. Also about Sunderland, they've just signed Bellingham from Birmingham.
Yeah, Job, is it? Job, whatever his name is, one to definitely look out for. Relegated were Wigan, Blackpool and Reading. Wigan are in a whole heap of trouble on and off the pitch. They're starting the season with minus points in League One. It's not going to be good. Blackpool, proper yo-yo club now between the divisions. And Reading, obviously, a penalty shootout away from getting promoted a few years ago against Huddersfield. Jaap Stam, second mention on the podcast, manager at the time. That'll be an interesting one. Huddersfield, dark horses for me next year. Warnock's just signed a contract. So I reckon he stuck over. It's kept him up. He could watch out for Huddersfield next year because he knows how to get promotion, that boy. Plymouth, Ipswich, Sheffield United. So the top three in League One got promoted. Plymouth 101 points, Ipswich 98, Sheffield Wednesday 96 points and finishing third. But anyone who followed the playoffs saw they were 4-0 down after the first leg against Peterborough. Turned it around, won on penalties, ended 5-5 in the game. Peterborough retook the lead in extra time. It went to penalties. Peterborough won. And then Sheffield United, Josh Windass, Dean Windass' son, scored like the last kick of the game in normal time for them to get promoted. Sheffield Wednesday, again, a club that's going to, they feel like they're Premier League club, so they want to be getting bounce back. Ipswich back where they should be. In Plymouth, an interesting one. Keep an eye on them. Relegated with Forest Green, which is a bit sad because one of the smaller clubs back to League Two. Accrington Stanley.
Who are Accrington Stanley?
Exactly. Oh dear. Morecambe and NK Dons went down again. Yo-yo-y clubs. God, butchered that, didn't we?
Knackered it. We
Yeah,
didn't rehearse it, did we?
Didn't rehearse it now. Winged it, a bit like this whole section.
The whole podcast, mate.
Yeah. Leighton Orient smashed League Two, went up as champion. Stevenage, brilliant for them to go up. And I think they were certainly a bit of a dark horse at the start of the season. And just stayed up the season before, I believe. And Northampton, big club, big yo-yo-y League One, League Two club. And then we had Carlisle got promoted, I believe, from the playoffs. I should really know this.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, so another season in League Two for Salford. But again, they're going to be wanting to bounce up. Rochdale and Jeff Stelling's boys, Hartlepool, went down. So it's going to be a tough ask for them to come up. A team called Wrexham got promoted. If anyone never heard of them, they're owned by some famous people. Along with Notts County, who finished season 107 points. So glad they went up. They will be two of the favourites to go up this season. They always are. Whoever stormed the National League are as big favourites to go up. It's the last season this season in National League and League Two. So there's the last season where there's 2 relegated from League Two. Following season, there's going to be 3 relegated, which is the way it should be, because we'll be back in the National League at that point.
Yeah, you will. Damn right.
And then relegated from the National League was Torquay, Yeovil, Maidstone, and Scunthorpe.
Thanks, Scott. You'll be back in the National League. You'll be back where you belong soon. Thank you for that. Let's talk about relegation, the managerial merry-go-round, and West Ham. We've got to talk about the Hammers. We've got to talk about that magnificent night with that huge win for the first trophy they've won since the 50s. The big European Trophy, something like that. Something ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yep.
It's a massive win. Scott, your boys, your Premier League boys, talk us through your emotions, your feelings. How did you enjoy the final?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the final. I thought it was a really good game, actually. There was definitely a game that was played in patches. West Ham, they were looking, they looked quite good up until the goal, and then there was certainly a period when Fiorentina equalised, and they were all over West Ham for a little bit, and it just felt like it's one of those games again. Some of our clubs got really close in Europa and Conference last year. Are they gonna dive off? But it was meant to be, with Jared scoring pretty late on. What a finish, by the way. I know, so the keeper got a bit of a hand to it, but that composure to time the run, great ball, times the run perfectly, and just has the bottle to finish it. And then there was about 9 minutes added on, and I just defended like absolute beavers for those 9 minutes. And I just love seeing like pure reactions, like when they scored, and just seeing Moisey doing like a poor man's Mourinho down the line. And I know you're probably going to touch on it, but this is why you stay with a proven manager.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. You know what? We're gonna talk about the managers. Baz, anything to add on the West Ham side of things? Did you watch the game?
Yeah, I watched the game. To be honest, I thought, for me, I think the best team lost. I thought Fiorentina were all over West Ham. I think. But fair play. He's got to stay in the game. Obviously, they took the lead, and Fiorentina came back, and then obviously, as Scott mentioned, it was a great pass and a great time running a cheeky little dink over keeper. Good finish. I thought. Yeah, and obviously Moyes is staying as well. And same as Scott says, I think if you stick with a manager, that's what you get. He knows his team, he knows what he's doing. It's the ones where they've just come into a team and they're like, I don't really know who my players are. And Moyes has kind of built that team. And I think Skamaka's injuries actually helped Moyes, to be honest, because he was more of a hindrance than a help, to be honest. He didn't really suit that style of play. So yeah, that's my touch on it.
Well, you go back to that, other than Paquetá, looking at that starting 11, and maybe Aguerd, I don't know when he signed for him. Yeah. Just all proven players that's done well for, even someone like Mikel Antonio. He knows he's going to do
so
a job
hard that game, didn't he?
He was getting nothing as well. We were getting fouled left, right, and centre, and ref wasn't giving out.
The ref was horrendous. He didn't give anything, did he?
It was when Antonio was tracking back in his own half and like getting towards the final third to win the ball back at 1-1 and stuff. And it was just, and actually, funnily enough, him doing that at that time moved the defence because they weren't as switched on to Bowen's run. And it was Antonio tracked back and was way out of position to then Paqueta getting the ball, so then play it through to Bowen to time the run. There wasn't a striker. So it was just, it was great. I loved watching that. I thought it was really great fun to cheer on the team. Southampton changed the manager twice. Shout out to Nathan Jones, by the way. What a guy. Thank you, Nathan. And yeah, I am not a believer in God, but I know you are a big believer in God, Nathan. And you know what? You've nearly converted me because what a guy. You stopped Man City winning the inevitable treble, and you let my boys win a trophy. So thank you. But went down, bottom. Leeds United changed their manager twice this season. Sam Allardyce and Demography, wasn't it? Leicester changed the manager, relegated. Everton brought in Sean Dyche, proven manager in the Premier League to keep teams up, survived. Forest backed their manager, survived. Bournemouth, to be fair, Nathan, Gary, what's he called?
Gary O'Neill.
Gary O'Neill was basically the manager for most of the season. They backed him, stayed up. West Ham, David Moyes, backed him, stayed up. Yeah. What does that prove?
It proves if you're going to get rid of your manager, you need a plan in place, and you need the right managers to come in. Like you say, Everton did it at the right time. They got Dyche in at the right time.
And the upgrade from Lampard to Dyche,
unbelievable, proven. Wolves, Lopatelli, what a manager, upgrade. Obviously Villa changed the manager. Not bad, got into Europa Conference League. So what that says is, if like Leeds got rid of the manager and fanning her out for like 2 weeks, it's like have someone proven in the wings, get rid of them, fair enough, but have someone in the wings waiting. And they just didn't. Same with Leicester, they didn't didn't have anyone. So yeah, stick with your manager, and I love seeing teams like Forest, like the chairman. Pals, you'll probably know this, obviously being quite close to Nottingham and that. The chairman seems like a bit of a maverick, a bit flamboyant. I feel like he could be someone that could.
That's putting it politely as well.
Yeah.
He owns Olympiacos as well, and he's not shy to show his feelings and things like that. And he wears his heart on his sleeve. And I'm surprised he didn't do a quick fire.
Yeah,
but I think he's backed him signing all these players, and obviously I think he thought in back of his head. This is what he did last season, where they were relegation, and then he got them all the way up to win the playoffs. So I think if that history wasn't there, he'd have been gone.
Yeah, and then you've got to look. I think Gary O'Neill goes under the radar a bit when we talk about like managers, because you say he pretty much has had the whole season there, and there was a period where we were all saying, yeah, Bournemouth still down, Bournemouth down.
100%.
But then he had that run of games, and he just literally. So yeah, I think he's done so well as Gary O'Neill for his first manager job as well.
I thought they were nailed to go down. Yeah, I couldn't be more wrong. I thought all season until they went on that little run, Bournemouth were doomed, and they ended up coming 15th. So they didn't exactly do bad, did they? That whole merry-go-round of managers just drives me insane. I think we've had the most insane season for it ever. And yeah, Gerrard to Emery, I completely agree. What an upgrade. That Lampard to Dyche, big upgrade. Whoever the hell was the manager at Wolves before to Lopetegui was always going to be an upgrade. I think Lopetegui's obviously got really great history. The only one that frustrated me, and I'm still frustrated by it, is Crystal Palace. I think that everyone talks about Roy as what a great job he's done and this, that, and the other. I still think they'd have survived comfortably with Patrick Vieira in charge. And I think that he had a very, very cushy run of fixtures. And I don't think Vieira did that bad of a job. So I know that everyone was patting Roy on the back, but I don't rate what he did there that highly at all. And I think actually it's left Palace in a worse position now than it would have done, because they're going to have to find a new manager and rebuild. Unpopular opinion, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's my take.
Yeah, I disagree, just because I had him ready.
Well, no, the transition, yeah, I agree that Palace were much better prepared than everybody else in that spot. But I get that.
I wouldn't have sat Vieira, no, in that spot. But I don't think I think it was close. I think they saw themselves slipping a bit, panicked, and thought, right, we need to get a plan in place. Let's get Roy in to stabilise it. He knows all the players pretty much. So yeah.
Well, that's anything to add on the managerial merry-go-round before we?
I think it was harsh, but it's a result business. If you look at his previous results, then I think it was one of them. He had some poor results leading up to that. But the run of fixtures that Roy had, I know we keep talking about, and all them people that he had to play had something to play for. But so did Palace. The only time they didn't have something to play for was probably the last 3 or 4 games. And they kind of like the shackles were off, and they were playing quite free football, like what Vieira was playing. And obviously Eze, Zara, even though Zara was injured, Ayew and Elise was thriving under that. They played like with a false 9, and it worked quite well because obviously they didn't have a vocal figure up there. They had Ayew who just kept drifting in, and then But I think if they kept with Vieira, they'd have stayed up as well. But
Fulham, Bournemouth, Forest all survived. Burnley, Sheffield United, Luton. How many of them survive next season? Scott?
I hope Luton stay up. I don't think they do. I think they come straight back down. I think Burnley stay up. I think they will be I think they'll be one of those promoted teams that does quite well. Not as well as others have smashed in the past. And Sheffield United, I think, scrape it as well. I think if they start the season well, don't forget these clubs have had a whole season of winning. So if they can keep that winning mentality going, I think your Forest and your Bournemouths, and I think Fulham might have a difficult season. Maybe Brentford will without Tony. What's Brighton going to be like juggling Europe for the first time? So I think there's going to be a big load of clubs there. So I think 2 survive, Luton go down.
Baz?
I think Burnley survive. I think with companies' knowledge of the Belgian league and how many. Well, look at Matoma. He came from Belgian league and absolute thrive. So if he picks up another gem like that, if obviously I know Brighton's picked him up, but if he finds a player like that, then obviously help. He's got Benson, Miguel or Manuel, or something like that, and he scored 11 goals and looked really good as a centre forward. So I think Burnley will stay up, Sheffield United go down, and I'm worried about Luton. I think they might be near the Derby point situation because they have to spend so much on the stadium that they might not be able to recuperate.
But what I would say about that is, really quickly, is obviously Derby, they had a fairly decent stadium. And what I'm getting at is Kenilworth Road is going to be hard for these clubs to go to. I like to compare it to like, who's got like
it was like when Brentford first came up and Arsenal played them.
Yeah, that's it. So it was like, So I reckon that could be a really tough. I think if they stay up, well, it's not going to be rocket science, but if they stay up, it's going to be their home form. It's going to be getting that crowd going. I don't know what the crowd's like at Luton. Yeah, got to get the crowd going. Got to be winning. They'll be on Friday Night Football, no doubt.
Well, if the league fixtures is right, they're playing Liverpool at Kenilworth Road on the first week of the season. So that'd be interesting for Liverpool, won't it? If that's correct, of course. Fixtures get released tomorrow, so by the time anyone listens to this, they'll know the fixtures anyway. Premier League's annual general meeting is going on currently, and they've now said that they're not allowed to do leverage buyouts anymore. So too late for United. I wonder if we'll ever sell our club. I wonder if the Glazers will ever let it go. To be honest, I think Luton and Sheffield United are probably going to struggle. I think Burnley will also struggle as well. It's difficult to see which other team's going to go down. Let's talk about the European teams for next season. So the teams towards the top of the league. The question that's on everybody's lips is...
Everyone's lips?
Everyone's. This is everyone's lips. Did Arsenal have a great season or did they bottle it? Barry?
Bottle it. Easy as that. You can't be that far in front and not win a league. It's just embarrassing, I think. And they haven't won a trophy. If they won an FA Cup or a League Cup and finished in Champions League, good season. Finishing second, what do you get? Do you get runners up medal?
Yeah.
Don't really get you don't parade it round the round,
Yeah.
do you? Oh, hey, open top boss, here's my medal. So yeah, it's one of them. You want silverware at the end of the season. Yes, getting back in Champions League was always their main goal. But yeah, they definitely bottled it.
Scott, they achieved what they wanted to achieve this season.
Yeah, I don't think they bowled it. I know the gap was big at times, but I know you don't win, drive on points on the ball and games in hand, but a team that's got games in hand is a team called Manchester City. So I don't think they bowled it. I think they got beat by a team that was his generational team that's just going to win a treble. I think you talk about ball. I think you would look at maybe Spurs in the Leicester season, a team that would never have a better opportunity to win a league than that year. The points tally was really low. Like, don't get me wrong, we've seen Centurions and that. They finished on 84 points. I'd love to know how many seasons actually they would have won the league on that. Probably a fair few. So I don't think they bottled it. I think they could have handled games differently. There were goals up. West Ham was a game, I think, where there were a couple of goals up. Liverpool, I think, was another game.
Southampton was where they were behind. So the running game he's talking about is game week 30. It was 2-2 with Liverpool. From 2-0 up. Game week 31, it was 2-2 with West Ham. They were 2-1 up and missed the penalty.
Yeah.
3-3 with Southampton, and then they were
losing against Southampton as well.
And they were losing, yeah. Then they got battered 4-1 by Man City. So they got 3 points from 12.
So it's the Southampton result for me, because you've got that West Ham game was at West Ham
at home as well. Southampton.
Yeah. That was the game, because if that took them into the City game, like you said, and they were still hungover. If they'd have won that game, and then would have been a better mentality, maybe to got a draw against City. But I read anyway. It's not Arsenal's fault. It's the Queen.
Yeah, I was about to say exactly the same.
What's this theory then? Go on. I've not heard this.
And yeah,
so the Queen died, and then Arsenal was going to play Man City, weren't they? And Arsenal were in this really amazing form. City still hadn't got into full gear. So Arsenal would have beaten them. And they wouldn't have had the game to play at the end of the season, and they would have just walked the league. So yeah,
Queen Elizabeth. PSV, didn't they, in Europa group stage? I remember that. Yeah. Oh, is that the reason? The Queen didn't want Arsenal to win.
Yeah.
She's a Spurs fan. That's even worse. The other big question is, who had a better season, the Red Devils or the Gunners?
Man United, without a shadow of a doubt. For the reason Baz just said, you don't get anything for second. Don't matter if you finish second, third, or fourth. You still get Champions League. Man United won a major trophy. Man United.
Baz?
Man United's an easy question. 2 finals and Champions League.
Yeah.
And you won one of them finals, so it's a stupid question, to be honest.
But honestly, it's been debated a lot. Would you rather come second and have Arsenal be in a title race, or would you rather come third and win a major trophy?
Yeah, you'll get more prize money for finishing second, but obviously you get prize money for winning the FA Cup or runners up in the FA Cup and also League Cup. So,
by the way, talk about bottle. That Europa League game, you should have won the Europa League.
Oh yeah, no, you're totally right. That Sevilla first leg, where we were 2-0 up, and then we Garnacho at the post of the bar to go 3-0. Like literally, I think it was Garnacho. That moment was the moment, and then like those 2 own goals were just that was just. Or the first own goal was just ridiculous mistake by Malacia, and the second own goal sums up Harry Maguire's Man United career, because it's so unlucky. But what's going on in that situation? Anyway, yes, completely agree, Scott. We should have won the Europa League, and I'm annoyed that we didn't. But we got beat by the team that won it, because Sevilla always win the Europa League. We'd have had a clean sweep of trophies, English teams as well. Thank you to West Ham. Finished off the Champions League positions. How good did Newcastle do this year? Your boy Anthony Gordon, Scott, get Champions League football next season.
Deserves it. One to watch next year, that lad. They did amazing. And we've said it before, obviously, they seem to be obeying by the financial fair play rules. So yeah, they've bought in, spent a lot of money on Isaac and Bruno Guimaraes, but they've not just gone out and spent loads on loads of people. They've been very controlled in what signings they need to make. They've got a manager in Eddie Howe who has been unbelievable. Like anyone that's listening, us three and some of our friends, we did the Premier League prediction table at the beginning of the season. And I tell you now, no one had any and Newcastle anywhere near the Champions League places. I think a few of us maybe had 7th or 8th, maybe getting Europa League, Europa Conference League, but they've done that, like you say, they've done that. They're 2 years ahead of probably where they would need to be. It's like Gary Neville said, though, Newcastle fans can't be disappointed if they get to maybe the last 16 of the Champions League, or they get third in the Champions League group and they have a little run in Europa League, and they finish like 6th. That's still steady progress, or maintaining something for me. But yeah, brilliant season. Great football as well. They've done it by doing, for the most part, really good, attractive football.
It's going to be really hard next season for them to get Champions League again. It's going to be really hard for everybody, other than Man City, I think. Each City are always going to be in the title race. It's who's going to be in the title race with them and who's going to be in that top 4 with them. It could be any of those teams towards the top. It's crazy hard. Baz, what's your take on Newcastle before we shift on to our teams of the season?
Eddie Howe's built a squad, hasn't he? He knows what to do. He's looked at what needs and he's got it. And that's basically, he spent the money wisely, as Scott mentioned, and obviously I think they're going to be a force now. They're in the Champions League. They can sign some more well-known players and get up there to actually keep battling to retain that Champions League spot. So I fancy him as a dark horse to actually potentially challenge City for the league next season.
Just to wrap up on the European teams, because we've already discussed Liverpool. Obviously, had a great second half to the season compared to the first, so they'll be right up there again with some good recruitment. Brighton, will they retain it with Europa League football? It's going to be really difficult, and Villa, of course, have done amazing to get where they are and are going to strengthen. The final team, just to touch on, so obviously we have mentioned Brentford, we have mentioned Fulham, Palace, but we've got to mention the final 2 teams before we go into our teams of the season. Spurs and Chelsea. They both haven't got European football next season. Chelsea have got a gigantic squad full of superstars-ish. Spurs seem to be a club almost going in the wrong direction. What do we make of their 2 fortunes and predictions very briefly before we move on to our teams of the season debate and roundup?
I think Ange Postecoglou will sort it out at Spurs. I think he's a no-nonsense manager, and I think he's gonna crack on and do it. I think the problem that they've had with Spurs is they haven't really got anyone apart from Son and Kane. Obviously, Son hasn't done really well, and that's why probably they've been that low. If Son obviously played like he did the season before, then they probably would have been Europe. But there's a big, massive rebuild, and I agree with what Conte said. I think some of the players, I think, are just there for paycheck, and it needs a massive overhaul. And same with Chelsea, really. They've signed all these players and got all these individuals, and they've got the right man to build a squad from all them little individuals and get them to click. So I think Poch has got a difficult job on his hands, but he's the right man for that job.
Yeah, I think there's, like I say, there's a massive summer ahead at Chelsea. Massive. They need to get rid of some of them players. It honestly makes me feel a bit sick. I'm not even being dramatic there. Like how much money they've wasted and thrown at these players. Like I say, individually they're good, but we've just said Enzo 80 million compared to, you could have picked up McAllister for like 35 million if you just waited a bit, had a bit of patience. I hope for Chelsea's fans' sakes, the manager, the owner has learned a lot of lessons. It's not America. Apparently, in America, you just throw stuff and it works. Amazing manager, massive fan of Pochettino. I think, without any of the distractions, anything less, they need to be top 4 at the end of the season, 100%. and they need to get maybe a run in the cup. Spurs, I'm worried for. I'm never gonna. I can't rate a manager by winning the Scottish League. I really can't. It's a 2-horse race every season. I like how he comes across. I agree with Baz. There's no nonsense. He speaks really, really well. But I need to see him, and his biggest hurdle is going to be, he's not this big name manager that I've had in the past. So if he has a bad start, fans are going to be murmuring, and it's going to be all that.
Look what happened to Nuno.
Exactly. So the start for Spurs, but when you see some of the players they're linked with, it does seem like they're sliding back. A few years ago they were title contenders, top 2, 3. They look like they're more like bloody top 6 now, top 7.
Well, they're quite comfortably the 7th best team at the top 7, aren't they? To me, like out of that group now that Newcastle are in there in that sense. Yeah, big summer for Chelsea, big summer for Chelsea's transfers, and Spurs are going to have an interesting time. I think Postecoglou is probably the right sort of manager for Daniel Levy to work with, in the sense that I think that these bigger Mourinho, Conte names obviously just haven't worked out for them. So let's do our teams of the season, boys. I'm going to try and do this so you can see all of those together. Can you see those up there, lads? For podcast listeners, I am faffing about with some teams.
Yeah, I'm seeing both. One's bigger than the other, but
that's fine. I'll put that there for now, because it's just everyone can see them then, can't they? But for podcast listeners, run through your 11, your team of the season.
So goalkeeper, I've gone for the Golden Glove, David De Gea. Obviously, he was just saved so many chances for Man U, especially how Man U's defence was. It was very vulnerable at the start, and then obviously it started to get a bit better when Maguire was dropped. And obviously he was there to stop. He wasn't there to play. He was there to stop. It was like what we were talking about, Schmeichel. He's there to stop goals, and that's what he did. Obviously, a clean sheet at back end of the season was what built obviously Man United to get to where they was. Back four, I've gone for a 4-4-2. I know that's very rare in these days. I've gone for Trippier. Obviously, he was just phenomenal. Ruben Diaz was just an absolute rock for Man City. And when he came back into the team, he just transformed it, made it more solid at the back. I know we talked about City no clubs being solid at the back apart from Newcastle and Man City. And I've gone for Fabian Schär. Bit of unsung hero, when maybe because I drafted him in the FPL back end of the season, but he looked really good, and he was, for me, better than what Botman was. I think Botman obviously was a transfer that came in and actually did really well, but Fabian Schär for me outshone Botman. And then left back, I've gone for Estupiñán. I think he was a good signing as well for Brighton, and he built into their philosophy of playing and looked really good. My four in midfield, I've gone for Salah, and I've gone for the signing of the season for me, Palhinha. I think he's a hatchet man that can play. And I think Fulham kind of stayed up with probably him and the good signings that they also made as well with Leno in goal and also Pereira as well. Odegaard is my other centre midfielder, and obviously I've totally forgot about Rashford, but I've put Martinelli in. And then obviously my front two, Haaland and Kane. I think them two would work brilliantly together, because Kane drops off, Haaland stays up there, and I think it would be a great partnership.
Yeah, totally agree. Easy. Yeah, front two nailed on. I think my team for pod listeners, I went for Pope, but De Gea could easily have been the same guy, same position easily. I thought about Alisson and Raya as well as options, but Pope I put in. Stuck with Diaz and Trippier as well. I went for Saliba. I went for Saliba because of his impact for Arsenal at the beginning of the season. I think Saliba's injury was one of the biggest blows to Arsenal. He was so good at the beginning of the season. He was so good in the middle point. And then they didn't have him at the back end when they bottled it or lost it to a better team. I thought he was just so key. I thought he deserved a shout out. And John Stones, for me, had to be in the team. Just the way that he's been in the City side, the way he's turned it round. Completely agree. Salah and Ødegaard. And I have Rashford as well in the midfield. And I put Rodri in over Polina. Now, I completely, again, Polina's great. I was debating between Casemiro as well. I think the way he's influenced Man United as a team has been amazing. But Rodri's just makes things tick in that City midfield. And yeah, Kane and Haaland, obvious front two. I can't believe I've seen teams without these two in it, the team of the season. And I did a little bench to put De Gea on it, Shaw, De Bruyne, and I think Ivan Toney needs a shout out. I think he's been unbelievable this season as well. But Scott, and your thoughts on these teams? Any players you think we've missed that need shouts? Any horrendous shouts? What do you think?
I don't think you can really argue any of them. I think you always got to look at the teams that finish better, at the top of the league. You've got to include their players. So you both got City and Arsenal assets in there. Man United, I think Rashford, he gets a bit of some stick, but I'm just looking at his numbers here. 17 goals, 5 assists, nothing to be sniffed at. And you've got other assets there. Kane, yes, Spurs were crap. He was amazing. Haaland goes without saying. Paulinho, I like that little shout. Disagree with it to a certain extent, but I like that you're looking at teams like that. Teams like your Brighton, your Villa, Brentford, Fulham's, those kind of players. Estupinian. I was trying to wrap my brain of a Brighton player to put him, and then it's like they've been all pretty chipping in and consistent, but they've not had that star man. Matoma had spells, McAllister had spells. So I like the fact that he put Estupinian in. I think especially towards the end of the season, he's really started contributing goals, assists as well from that left back role. I love that. Salah, again, he goes a little bit under the radar of his numbers. 19 goals, 12 assists. Not bad. And he almost dragged them to a Champions League position come the end of the season from where they were, which is amazing. And yeah, Rodri, fantastic. I don't really think there's anyone you guys have missed out there. People had spells. Watkins had that mad spell. Saka could be a shout. 14 goals, 11 assists. Really, really good numbers. But no, I think you guys have done really well. Well done.
Thanks very much. It's Haaland 36 goals, Kane 30 goals, unbelievable. Ivan Toney next with 20, then Salah 19. Kind of Callum Wilson ended with 18 goals. I thought that was really, really higher than I thought. Rashford was 17, and then Martinelli and Ødegaard both with 15 each. Everyone bangs on about Saka. I really like Saka. I think he was a really good footballer, but I do think that Ødegaard and Martinelli both had better seasons, not just from a fantasy perspective, but from an all-round position as well. Good time for us to come on to a few awards, I think, before we just have the quick, very dull discussion about why there's international football at this point of the season, and the international team that I'd like us to touch on. You had a few awards that were did on Monday Night Football, Baz, that you had a list of that I've not thought about yet, so I can't wait to do this.
Yeah, so obviously we can obviously discuss. So obviously, best player. There's no point discussing it. I think everyone knows it. Haaland.
Yeah, I disagree.
Oh, go on.
Harry Kane.
Okay.
Yeah. 30 goals. Sorry, 30 league goals. If it weren't for Haaland, we'd be like ridiculously raving over that. 30 league goals in that crap Spurs team.
Same and he just kept leading. Well,
if it weren't for what's that?
They got the same amount of assists as well, didn't they? Got 9 each. I know they got 9 fantasy assists each. I don't know what the actual Opta stats were, but I know the fantasy numbers, obviously.
Yeah.
So there were 9 each for fantasy.
Three Opta ones. Unbelievable. It's a big gap there. But I feel like all the games that they've scraped and that, if it weren't for him, they would have done a Chelsea this year. They'd have been in that position where Chelsea are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't think it's a bad shout at all, Scott. Got to go with Haaland as the top of the list for me and Baz there. Baz, the next award.
Young player?
Young player.
Haaland.
Yeah, well, you can do that because you can't have it for both. I like that, but you can't do the both thing. I think it was, I know they said this in Monday Night Football, but Ødegaard for me was fantastic. Yeah, as a young player, he stuck out. And if not, then maybe if you're going a bit younger, if we don't like the fact that he's like 24 and he's a young player still, then yeah, Martinelli was somebody that I thought stuck out.
Yeah, same Odegaard because it's 23. I think the
23,
cut-off
sorry.
is, and yeah. But yeah, Odegaard or Martinelli or even I know he's not in my team 11, but Saka as well. The only reason he's not in my team is because Salah. So,
Scott?
manager of the year.
Oh, you did Haaland, of course you did. Sorry, Scott. Yep, manager of the year. Go on, Scotty. Who's the manager of the year?
Manager of the year is Eddie Howe for me.
Oh God, I found this one really tough. Baz?
Gary O'Neill. It just from getting appointed after Scott Parker basically slagged off his own team to lose 7-0. Oh, it was not even 7-0, it was 9-0 or something, wasn't it? It was an obscene amount.
9-0
I
to
think
Liverpool.
I think the transition that he put and the belief in his players that we can stay up, just great. I can't sing enough praises for him. I liked him as a player and like him as a manager. So yeah, Gary O'Neill for me.
I think the hardest thing for me in this one is that when I look at the teams what they've achieved was like Man City to win the league. I know Pep does but Pep amazing, great, cool, yeah, amazing. But Arteta coming second, but done really, really well. Man United they won a trophy and got back in the Champions League. Tenar's got to be up there. Howe's got to be up there. I mean, obviously not Klopp this season, but De Zerbi's got to be up there. Emery taking the team from there to wherever's got to be up there. But other than Frank Lampard, it's got to be David Moyes. I'm going to go with Moisey for my manager of the season. I think the absolute nonsense he had to put up with from his own inverted commas fans wanting to get rid of him, and the fact that he's come back and he's won that trophy, unbelievable. So, Moisey, number one, top lad. Next one, Baz.
Best signing.
Very
I've already said mine.
Yeah, you're up for Polina. Obviously, I'm not going to go for Haaland again. Outside of Haaland, only because like Guimaraes was signed last season. It won't be Guimaraes because he was signed last season, wasn't he? For
signing January,
January the season before. Because I think he's just unbelievable what he's done to that Newcastle team. Something similar. I'm going to go for my boy Casemiro. I think without him being signed for Man United, we'd be absolutely in a world of trouble. We'd still be there with McFred. And his experience has carried us through to win a trophy and get Champions League. So biased, very much so, but Casemiro.
I've stolen mine. I'll go for the centre back then. I'll go for Martinez. You know, written off because he was small. He's fantastic, isn't he? Big loss towards the end of the season. You never know what they could have done in that FA Cup final. So yeah, I think you'd get him fit for Ram. That'll be an unbelievable little partnership, wouldn't it?
I agree.
Biggest surprise.
Oh, biggest surprise. Just biggest surprise in general, or biggest surprise player?
Yeah, in general. In general, it could be a player, it could be a team, it could be a game. It could be
Chelsea.
Biggest surprise.
Chelsea for me. Who can spend all that money and finish bottom half of the Premier League table? That's a disgrace. Especially when they literally had a world-class manager. The biggest surprise to me is that we're sat at the end of the season and they've not got Thomas Tuchel as the manager, and they finished 11th or below, like Brentford and Brighton's and Fulham's. So yeah, for me, it's got to be them.
Biggest surprise is probably Leicester getting relegated. I didn't have them anywhere near the relegation zone. Obviously, the Chelsea thing is a massive surprise as well. So, I called Tuchel get sacked by Christmas. I thought Bowley was going to go in there and play Billy B. You know what? But But yeah, Leicester relegated. I'm shocked.
We were
that they're
chatting
down
about Leicester. We chatted about Leicester saying, yeah, definitely going to get into Europe this season, didn't we, at the start of the season?
there. Yeah, big shock. Baz?
I had Chelsea as well, but if I had to pick another one, is the transformation of Fulham from relegation cannon fodder to actually finishing in the top half. I think the transformation and the signings that Silva did, I think that goes on unreckoned, and I think he could have been a shout for manager of the year as well. So obviously apart from Chelsea, I'd say how good Fulham did.
I think if we were sat here doing this halfway through the season, just before or after the World Cup break, I think we would have to say Aston Villa.
Yeah,
because my God, they got 7. But yeah, I think you could throw your cap over Brighton, Brentford, like say Fulham, brilliant seasons.
Agreed. Next one, Baz.
And then this is one for Scott, because he's probably watched every single game. Favorite game?
You got to go to Scott first on this one. That's for sure.
Oh, tough on this.
Maybe let him think, and we'll come to him last.
There was over 100 and something televised live games this season, Scott. All the Champions League included, probably 200 live games. Must be something stupid like that.
Plus the World Cup as well thrown in.
Plus the World Cup, of course. Let's not forget the World Cup final. That's obviously one of the more obvious ones. Do you want a bit more time to think, Scott?
Oh yeah, I need more times.
I'll start then. I was in hospital and I actually had my headphones in and I actually was shouting, "Wow, this is crazy! This is unbelievable!" Liverpool 4, Spurs 3. What a game that was! It was unbelievable. I was in like shared obviously hospital and
Hotel.
I was in that long enough. I was there for a week. People just look at me going, and I'm like, there with headphones and going, "Oh wow, this is unbelievable!" And they were like, "What is he watching?" And I was like, "Sorry, I'm watching football." And they were like, "Yeah, it's all right." But yeah, that game was just crazy, absolute scenes.
2 different reasons for me, the 2 games that I picked, because I did think about this before, but the World Cup final obviously was just a wow game for me. I couldn't believe what I was watching, and obviously it was all the backstory and everything else with Messi and Mbappe and just unreal. But I've mentioned the game already. That City performance against Madrid, where they just handed Madrid their own backside on a plate, and that was just. I was watching that game thinking, I can't wait for this match. This is one of the matches of the season. I'm going to watch. It's going to be so close. Could be anything. And they just destroyed them. Quick stat before I come back to you, Scott, as well. I forgot to mention this when we were talking about City earlier. The way they navigated I had this written down as a point, so I'm just going to say it. We'll give you another few seconds. But the way they navigated the knockout phase is amazing. They drew all of their 3 away games 1-1. And in the knockout stages, then they beat Leipzig at home. Leipzig, wasn't it? 7-0 at home. Something stupid. Was it 7-0 or 7-0 at home? Then they beat Bayern Munich, whatever a score that was, and then they beat Madrid. They did such an amazing European job at drawing their away leg and then bringing them back to the Etihad and then beating them. Just, amazing. Had a chance to think, Scott?
Yeah, so a couple have come to mind. Like I said, I've watched nearly all of them. Sad life. I think, especially for the first 25 minutes, I've never seen a football game like Spurs against Newcastle.
Shout.
Ridiculous about that game. I remember just texting the group like, "What's going on?" From a personal perspective, when Scunthorpe beat Halifax Town away, we just got taken over that day as well. And it was actually a really emotional day because my club was, almost going out of existence. We'd got taken over and we managed to win away from home against Halifax. And I'll be honest, I'm a bit emotional now speaking about it. It was just a really amazing day. We still got relegated, but we're in a better position than we were.
Like that. I like how you've related that to other things that's made you very happy. That's nice. International football. Wrap up with that. Who are we playing? What are we doing? Does anyone know what's going on? Because I don't.
Well, I've seen it. It's like 400 vodka shots for like €100 or something like that in Malta. So Jack Grealish is gonna have a great time, isn't he?
It's I know it's the Nations League, Sammy. What we got? We've got Netherlands, Croatia, and Spain, Italy. Have we just got some friendlies, or is it what is it? Qualification matches? Oh, it's U24. Oh, play Malta,
yeah.
do we? Oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
we got a couple of massive teams.
Yeah, nice, good. Yeah,
it's like your qualification. You never play massive teams. So.
Hey, we've already beaten them, mate. That's why, haven't we? I'm sure we've already.
Did you get relegated in?
Yeah, man, we're going to be getting promoted next year.
Yo-yos,
Yeah.
like Wales.
yeah, Malta and then North Macedonia.
Yeah.
To be fair, mate, we've already played Ukraine in Italy. We beat Italy, didn't we? At Italy.
Yeah, we did. That was actually a really good result and performance. Actually, I remember that. Yeah, it was actually a really good game from our perspective.
For the first half, anyway, for England, and then they sat back in second. But yeah,
that's how we play under Southgate, mate.
That's Southgate plays, but he's a fraud.
You've got Armenia and Turkey.
Oh, yeah. They'll be close games for you guys, won't they?
Turkey won well. Turkey away, yeah. That'll be a difficult game, to be honest. We did beat them in Euros quite comfortably. So they've probably got that on their mind. Armenia at home should probably beat them 1-0. We love a 1-0 win. Can't rely on Gareth Bale, unfortunately, to score. So it'll probably be Kiefer Moorhead or something like that.
Hey, you beat Croatia, didn't you? So you're doing well.
Yeah. So yeah.
I think that wraps up that chat, doesn't it? So looking forward to next season. Let's hope that no one passes away. There's no COVID. There's not a World Cup in the middle of the season. Let's hope for a normal season next season, shall we? In terms of fixtures and the way it's been going to get rolled out.
Like Conte says, he just wants one normal week, one normal season. Barclays Premier League fantasy football, whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we want. One normal season. So, boys, that wraps it up. Thank you ever so much for joining me, and thank you ever so much for joining me all season. You've been amazing. I feel a bit emotional. I'm not going to do one of these for a little while. We'll be back though for the pre-season. My favourite one of the season. You know, that one and the end of season one where we interview everybody. They're my two favourite podcasts. If I only did those two, I'd be happy because all the prep I'll do for that first one is just going to make me so pleased. And we'll take my mind off everything else. But Barry, thank you very much. Scott, thank you very much. And don't forget to follow us on our platforms, Pod P, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And bye for now.